Hello, this is my first podcast, and I just want to talk about the world. What is the world? Well, the world is something that can be defined as the earth, together with all its countries, peoples, natural features. That's one definition. Another definition is a region or group of countries. And also another definition I see is humans and social interaction. All these definitions give us a good explanation or something to think about when thinking about the world. I would see the world as something as our society or our interactions with other people. Our society is a system of moving parts, and those moving parts being each of us, our individuality moving between the system. And our society, often, like I also said, the world is something that we like to antagonize. We believe the world has an interior motive by itself, and sometimes that interior motive doesn't really align with our motives. We see it as something that is anti-morals or something that's trying to lead us away from our morals. So it leads us to think, how do we think about our social life or the people around us? Do we think that there's people around us who are trying to, their sole purpose is to drive us away from what we want to do? And thus it leads us to believe that the world or our society is something that's corrupt, and that is, like I said before, is something we like to antagonize. So now we know what the world or what our society is. What is its main intent? Now, since is something we like to antagonize, I'd like to ask the question, is the world really sentient? Is it truly a being that can think, talk, and communicate with us? And that, in such a metaphorical word, is it really something that can think for itself? I believe the world is something that we're a part of, and that in reality humans think differently but in the same way. And so basically us humans are built with similar structures but different details and different functions. So I believe the world is something sentient, and that it creates a sort of structure for our society, and that our society is sometimes, or actually all the times, gives us rules to abide by. So I do believe that the world is something really sentient. Now, is it really good or evil, the world that we live in? See, good or evil is a very relative term, but we could basically define it as, does this world have our best interests in mind? Now, our society's structure, like I said, that is similar to everyone else's will, is something that tries to have the individual's will, but yet is somehow carried out through a mob of people, which is two ideas that really conflict. So I say all this to say that the world is something that tries to be more individual and ends out being a lump of mess and lack of individuality. And that it says that you are an individual, but yet puts you in a group of people who you want to say are the same like you. So the world's true intention is to control, and the best way to control is a mob of people. Now, this may seem like the world's intentions are evil, but is it really evil if the world is trying to control, or our society is trying to control? Now these are all my thoughts of what I'm thinking, like off my head, but is it really bad to control? I mean, what if our society is structured so the way it controls is through mob mentality, and it tries to control us from going on a path that's somewhere bad. This control or false individuality could actually be something good, and that the world is actually doing good for us. So I say all this to say that the world is controlling, but it could be, now I don't know for a fact, it could be controlling us for good or for bad. Speaking about the world, well, how do we see the world? Us humans and individuals, we like to see the world as what we see, what we feel, what we hear, and basically what we can basically understand or perceive. This can also be described as our reality, as we try to grasp the reality around us, and that reality around us is our world. We perceive it as something that we can touch and understand, but what if our world is actually something beyond human comprehension, and that our world is more than where we can go, where people will meet, or a social environment, and that the world is something that exists collectively through the brain of other people. Now, this could just be random thoughts coming out of my head, but is something really to honestly think about. The world also is something that we don't go through alone, is that something that other people share. But however, our world could be different from ours. Our perception of reality based on our beliefs could be different from other people. So the world is something of more of an ambiguous term that can only be shared through our thoughts, but yet, however, cannot be fully understood by others and has a unique term. And with these thoughts coming from my head, I believe the world is something that we can not even try to, but have a will to overtake or somehow make a better place. I know that sounds sketchy, or just cliche, but I believe the world is just something that we can heal around us, because every person sees the world being broken with stuff you don't like, but I believe that in some case we can share our experience of a better world to other people. Now, speaking with these ambiguous terms, I hope I got my thought across.